All right, this will be the big chunk of what we do today, and this will be a big thing that we're talking about all the time for the rest of the year. I've told you guys I'm only ever going to ask you one section of the Constitution in your whole life, and this is it. Article 1, Section 8, which sets up our expressed powers of Congress. You guys remember the term expressed power from Unit 1? Expressed power means it's actually written in the Constitution. So when we look at Article 1, Section 8, just a list of powers for Congress. So Article 1, Section 8. Section 8 includes the list of Congress's expressed powers. So we'll refer to these as the enumerated powers. When I say the word enumerated, it means the same as expressed. It's written in the Constitution, but it makes you think a little more of like the list of powers. And so this part of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, is a long list of powers for Congress. We remember the people writing the Constitution, they wanted to make sure that Congress had a lot more power than it did under the Articles of Confederation. They knew what they wanted Congress to do, so Congress has a long list of powers. These are specifically given to Congress, not to the states. These are our enumerated powers, and Congress has way more express powers than any of the other branches do. First one on the list says Congress has the power to levy taxes, to collect taxes. So this is the power to lay and collect taxes on the American citizens. This also allows Congress the power to spend the money and to pay the debts of the United States. That's explained in this little clause of the Constitution here. So the power to collect, to charge taxes to people means all sorts of different taxes. So they have power to tax income. They have the power to tax uh, imports. They have the power to tax all sorts of things. An example here might be like an excise tax. We have excise taxes on a couple products. These get added into the price of goods. So a couple of things where these are common excise taxes would be gasoline and alcohol. So national government taxes must be the same in every state. So we make sure that there's a gas tax when you buy a gallon of gasoline for your car. Part of that is paying the tax to the United States government, and they turn around and help the states pave roads with it. Aside from collecting money from the American citizens, Congress also has the power to borrow money. They are the ones who can borrow money on the credit of the United States. The United States government has not made money in a year in going back to the to 1998, 1999 under Bill Clinton. But the modern government is running on a big deficit every year, meaning that we always borrow a lot of money in order to operate day to day. So this allows the fact that Congress can borrow money allows us to operate on a deficit. And this is what we do here in the country. We spend way more money than we make from taxes every year, and this gets added on to our national debt. Um, the fact that Congress can borrow money and does do so, this allows us to have all sorts of government programs that are popular, but also very low taxes. We don't necessarily fund them as much as we need to, but that is the way that our politicians choose to operate. All right, here's our Commerce Clause. We'll go through this real fast because we've talked about a ton. You guys should be experts on the Commerce Clause here. But Congress has the power to regulate commerce among the states. That's our Interstate Commerce Clause. Congress has the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations, which means that states don't get to do this, but only Congress can regulate foreign trade. Congress has the power to regulate commerce with the Indian tribes. Those are the words of the Constitution. That means that the states aren't doing that on their own. This would set up a system where the states were not competing with each other against Native American tribes, and so these three things make up Congress's commerce power. So the Interstate Commerce Clause, one of those things interpreted to give Congress a lot of power. Now, these are just the order that they go in the Constitution, so it might not, we're kind of jumping all over the place here, but Congress also has the power to establish naturalization and bankruptcy laws. Congress has this power because we want these to be the same in every state. So, naturalization is the process by which a person becomes a citizen of the United States. So, Congress sets up clear policies that are the same in every state about how a person would become a citizen. The same is true for bankruptcy. These are here in the clause together. They don't really have anything to do with each other, except that we want them the same in every state. Especially a bankruptcy law, we want to make sure that there was no advantage to traveling to a different state to declare bankruptcy or something like that. So bankruptcy laws are the same in every state. Congress deals with bankruptcy, and Congress creates the policies for how to become a citizen of the United States. Other kind of unrelated random powers of Congress that are in the Constitution together here. Congress has the power to coin money and to deal with measurements. So only Congress has the power to coin money. This makes only the national government have the power to decide the currency of the United States. Now, Congress has set up the US Mint to actually like create money. That doesn't have to be the job of Congress. They don't design the bills or anything like that. So they can give that power to some other office that they control, and that's what the U.S. Mint does. But Congress decides how money stuff operates. So they've set up the U.S. Mint to actually create money. They've set up the Federal Reserve, our banking system, to decide how much money exists, and we'll get into that complicated subject in the future. Um, but Congress is also responsible for fixing a standard set of weights and measurements for the United States. So only Congress can decide what weight and measurement system we use here in the United States. This is the main reason why we are one of the only countries in the world that is not a part of the metric system. The United States sticking with its original measurement system established by Congress early on. So we mentioned only Congress has the power to coin money, meaning only the national government can print money, all that kind of stuff. They also, Congress here is specifically given the job of punishing counterfeiters. So Congress created an organization designed to punish counterfeiters, and this is actually the Secret Service. So the Secret Service's original job was to catch those people counterfeiting money, and only later were different parts of the Secret Service added on to provide a security system for the president's safety and all that. But this is it. Congress punishes people who counterfeit money. We actually had an issue many years ago at White Station here. A kid uh, used a fake $20 bill in the cafeteria back when the cafeteria would deal with money and stuff like that. That's a huge deal because even though little stuff didn't really hurt anybody or anything, but that is now breaking a national law, and so the Secret Service has to deal with every instance of handling fake money. So the Secret Service actually came and dealt with the issue here at the school. Another random sounding one here is that Congress is responsible for establishing post offices and post roads. So this gives Congress the power to build roads in order to facilitate the delivery of mail. So they have to run the post office, and the post office has the authority to handle the mail, deliver the mail, and all this. And this has created, given Congress the incentive to build a good road system to deliver the mail. So early on, that was, something maybe you've heard of in U.S. history class, the original national road. Later in the 1950s, the modern interstate system was created by the national government to make sure that we could move things around the country pretty easily. It's up to Congress to set up copyrights and patents and also to support the arts. So Congress has the power to promote the arts and sciences here. That means they have uh, they can do, they can give grants for science, they can give grants for art and things like that. This is where our implied power comes from. You guys will be applying for financial aid for college pretty soon, and that is a form of Congress supporting the arts and science. If they help you go get to college and get through your years in college, what they've done hopefully is created future scientists and artists. But Congress also deals with copyrights and patents. They have to make sure that there's limited times for authors and inventors to have exclusive rights to their products. So a copyright is for like intellectual property, like you write a book, write a song, a piece of artwork, something like that. A patent is for like a tangible invention, something that you hold in your hand and all that. But Congress makes the laws that ensure that those people who create those things are the ones who can profit off of that. Congress also has some powers over the courts here. We've talked about this back in Unit 1, but we know that it's up to Congress to set up the courts that are inferior to the Supreme Court, and also up to Congress to deal with how the Supreme Court runs and operates. So Congress controls the size of the Supreme Court. Congress can pass some laws to deal with the jurisdiction and all that. But Congress has created the lower court system. So we have a system of district courts and a system of circuit courts of appeal. Congress can change that whenever they want. And that's Congress's power, specifically in the Constitution here. They can create special courts if we need to. So we do have special courts that are like just for taxes or just for issues in the military. My favorite one, the most important power that Congress has, actually in the Constitution. There's a list of 17 things that Congress does, and one of those 17 things here is it is up to Congress to fight piracy. Now, remember, this is written in the 1780s. When they mean piracy, they are talking about boat pirates. It is up to Congress to fight boat pirates like old Captain Jack Sparrow. So it's up to Congress to define what are crimes on the high seas, deal with those. It's up to Congress to find a way to stop piracy, mostly in the Atlantic Ocean, I guess. One that you know and that you're used to. It's up to Congress to declare war. This is a power given to Congress in Article 1, Section 8 here, so only Congress can declare war. They will do this usually if the president asks them to. Now, what happens in a more modern thing is they have allowed the president to like send the troops where he sees fit, and they authorize that action to take place. It's up to Congress to raise the army. So Congress is responsible for building and maintaining an army for the United States. This makes them responsible for finding the people, paying for the supplies, getting the funding, all those things necessary to make a functional army here. Congress has an implied power to hold a draft if we don't have enough people to join the army here. And Congress can make rules about who can serve in the army. So make rules about the qualifications to serve and all that. The next item for Congress in Article 1, Section 8 here is they have to raise a navy. It's a separate thing here. So Congress is responsible for building and maintaining a navy. Same as what they do for an army. It's up to them to get, supplies, people, all that kind of stuff. But added on here, it's up to them to regulate the land and naval forces. So this gives power to Congress, or gives Congress the power to make laws about how the Navy and Army will operate. So maybe those are laws, regulations, and laws about uh, who can serve, how they can act, all that kind of stuff. All right, it's up to Congress to regulate Washington, D.C., since that is not a state. And at the time, it didn't even exist, but the Constitution gives Congress the power to administer the capital of the nation, knowing that the capital was going to be built. So, as Washington, D.C. was built, Congress has given Washington, D.C. the power to act like a regular city. So, like the people of Washington, D.C. pick their own mayors and city council and stuff like that. But Congress does have the power to intervene. A few years ago, the voters of Washington, D.C. Voted to legalize marijuana, and Congress didn't want that. And since the Constitution says Congress regulates the nation's capital, Congress actually blocked the voters of DC from legalizing marijuana in this way. So if Congress wants something to happen in DC, they have the ultimate power since that's what the Constitution says. But Congress has given DC voters most of all the same powers that we have in any other city. And then the last one here, we don't have to talk much about it because we've already talked a ton, but the necessary and proper clause. Remember, this is what we call the elastic clause. Each one of these powers that we've mentioned so far implies that Congress has other powers to go along with it. So, of everything that we've talked about so far, we'd go back and we'd look at what implied powers might be connected to those powers that are written in the Constitution. All right, that's it. That's the expressed powers of Congress. We're going to find all these in Article 1, Section 8. We're going to spend time talking about what, these are expressed, but we'll talk about the implied powers that would go with these. We'll talk about all the different things that Congress do, and we'll talk about the lawmaking process that would impact each of these policies in the next couple days.